We're going to look today at section 6.3, the percent proportion. And this is one way to work through some story problems. We're going to look at this together. So you can represent the phrase A is P percent of W with this proportion. A over W equals P, which stands for percent, over 100. Now A and W are just two different variables or numbers. So we're going to kind of look at this and talk about it. So on this equation, A is part of the whole. W stands for whole. So A is the part, and W is the whole. And P stands for percent. And remember, percents are always over 100. Another way to write it is you can always say percent over 100 equals the part of the number over the whole number. Or another way to remember it is the number by is. So A is, the number by is goes on top. The number by of W goes on bottom. So it's either part over whole or is over of. We're going to practice just writing some proportions because we know how to solve these proportions. So it says, what percent of 15 is 12? Now always worry about the percent part first. In this one we don't know what percent. So whenever you see what, that's your x. So I would say, what percent? Well, I don't know. So it's x over 100. And then over here, what percent of 15 is 12? So 15 is my whole number, and 12 is my part. Or you can look and see that is 12, so it goes on top, is on top. And of by the 15, so it goes on bottom. So now we can solve this because we know how to cross multiply and divide. So we would take 100 times 12 and then divide that by 15. And when you do that, on this one you would get 80%. So we're looking for percent here, so you get 80%. Let's look at the next one. It says, what number is 36% of 50? Now always do the percent first. My percent is 36. Percent is always over 100. So now I've got to figure out the other part. This says of 50, and I know of goes on bottom. And so what number is means is with the what. So there's your x. So you're going to want to solve that by doing your cross multiplying, 36 times 50, and then you're going to divide by 100 to get your answer, which should be 18. Probably could have done mental math on that one and seen half of 100 is 50, half of 36 is 18. Try and set this one up, and then turn back on the computer when you're done. Okay, this one says 150%. Doesn't matter that it's over 100. It always doesn't matter that the percent is higher than 100. It always percent means over 100. So 150% of what number is 24? So I've got an is by my number. So I look over my notes here, and is goes on top. So I would put my 24 on top. 150% of what number? I don't know what number is 24. So then you can go ahead and cross multiply again. 100 times your 24, and then divide that by 150. And you should have that x equals 16. So that's what we're looking at today, is we're looking at writing proportions and then solving those. And we know how to work proportions, so this is one way to solve these equations. So try this one. Turn your computer back on. What percent of 5 is 3? So I don't know what percent, so I'm going to have x over 100. And then remember it's is over of. So then you would cross multiply. And then you would divide. You should get 60. And we're looking for percent, so you make sure you put a percent sign on your answer. Okay, try the next one. 25 is what percent of 20? So again, you've got something you don't know for your percent, and then is goes on top, and of goes on bottom. Now 25 is what percent of 20? Now 25 is higher than 20, so that should give you a hint about what you're going to get for your answer. You should get 125% when you work that out. So each of these you've got to set it up, and then you've got to make sure that you're working it through. Let's look at the next page here. what number is 80% of 60? Why don't you work 3 and 4 out and then turn this back on and we'll look at them. Okay, number 3, always put your percent first. 80 over 100, and of goes on bottom. So I have my proportion written there. Now I can go ahead and cross multiply. So you would take 80 times 60, and then you would divide it by your 100. And you should get 48. So you would say x equals 48. We're not looking for percents here, so no percent sign on it. Okay, number 4, 10%. You should have written 10 over 100. And it says of 40.5. Of goes on bottom. It's okay that there's decimals. And then my x would go on the top. So now we're going to cross multiply. And then you're going to divide by what's left, which in this case is 100. And you should get 4.05 for your answer. All right, try the last two and then turn it back on, and we'll look at them together. Okay, always put your percent first. So 0.1% means 0.1 over 100. And then of what number is 4? So now we're looking at is on top. So I would say 4 over x. So in this case, when you multiply, you're going to take 4 times 100 and then divide by your 0.1. And you should get 4,000 for your answer. And finally, on this one, I would write my percent, 25%, whoops, no percent sign, 25 over 100. And it says 1/2 is. So is goes on top, so I put 1/2 on top, and I don't know what that is. And so you take 1/2 of 100, which is 50, divided by 25, and x equals 2. So I've shown you the 3 possible things that it could be missing, either the percent, the is, or the of, and then we have solved those. So you can go ahead and do your homework now for this. Your homework for 6.3 begins on page 230, and you can choose what level you want to do on that. We will see you next time.